Hi, mate. You okay?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How you doing?
Yeah. I had a relatively good weekend. Of course, saw you yesterday. Good for me.
Yeah. Good day.
Sometimes, and yeah, watched a bit of Formula One as well. So it was all
Yeah.
right. It was all right. Definitely better weekend than
How did
Formula
Chelsea
Scudetto
do?
had. Definitely had a better weekend than Formula Ferrari Scudetto had. And I'm going to ignore that question. I'm not going to answer it. Um, I, I'm not aware of them playing. I'm not aware of them doing anything.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's
Sure.
all good
Yeah.
for me.
I'm just thinking back to what happened yesterday because we went to get McDonald's, and as we were going back into the car park, you got cut off by this man driving a Range Rover. Why don't you take it over from there, Dan?
Um, I don't really know where to start, to be honest. I think we were peacefully driving back into the parking lot, weren't we?
Mm.
And I'm trying to get in because there was a car trying to get into the parking lot. And I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm on the roundabout. I need to move away as much as I can so people can think. As that happens, I'm trying to go in, and this car suddenly jumps out of nowhere, which is a massive Range Rover, jumps out and blocks me from going in. And I'm there thinking, okay, well, I guess I'm going to reverse back onto the roundabout. As I reverse, this guy starts pushing forward and starts shouting at us. I don't really remember what he was shouting at us, but I don't think it helped with me being sarcastic clap, going, oh, well done, you got far,
Exactly,
didn't
because
you?
you moved back and then you started
Anyway,
sarcastically clapping him. That was brilliant.
yeah, probably didn't help the case, but he
Mm.
starts swearing. As he starts swearing, of course, you lost, just start laughing like, this guy can't be serious, surely. And that prompted him to start growling at us like a fucking dog. Going, oh.
A grown man actually growled at us, going, "You fucking kids! No!"
Yeah, I mean, you just couldn't put it into words on what happened. I remember 5 minutes later, after that's happened, both of us were just like, what just happened? I'm not really sure.
Honestly, it was fucking. I still don't understand what the thought process was.
No, I mean, what was going through my head was he a man or a dog? Because my dog doesn't even growl at people like that. So,
He identifies as a dog.
in today's age, yeah, can't joke about that.
Oh no! Sorry, yeah, we're cancelled already now. That's it.
Damn it, can't even do a pod now.
Shit. Oh well. But no, I was gonna go off on some tangent there. Fuck it, go on then. I bet you his wife makes him wear a collar and all.
To be honest, you didn't see it because, of course, you were to the left of me, and
Yeah.
he was more in front of me. His wife was like holding him, was like, please stop! And he's just there like, ah, ah. And we're there sat like, okay, mate, both grinding like, what is going on?
Locks him in a cage at night to get him to go to sleep.
Oh, James, don't continue with this, please. Oh,
Does she muzzle him as well?
to brush his teeth, yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Don't bite.
That was an actual thing that happened yesterday. I'm nearly crying. Oh God.
We're not even taking the piss, like it actually happened.
No, this is the kind of thing that if you told it in like a stand-up act, people would be thinking, "Oh, you just made this up for comedy effect." This genuinely happened. A man
Yeah.
growled at us because we went into a parking area.
What? Yeah, you can't even explain what for. I think the only reason I can come up with for him to actually growl at us was me sarcastically clapping and going, "Oh, well done. What'd you get out of that?" But that's about it. Other than that, we're just like, what?
After he finished shouting at us and he went to go and drive away, there was a man who was walking in front of him to go into, it was Epsom Downs where we were at, and the guy, he nearly ran him over.
And it was the most British reaction to it ever. He just walked off and was like, oh, that guy's got a bit of anger management problems, hasn't he?
So calm as well. He wasn't angry at all.
He was probably about 30 centimetres from being run over. And he just walks away from it like, oh, that guy's got anger problems. We're like, yeah, he's a bit of a prick, really.
Yeah, a bit of a strange one, that one. Fuck me, dude.
Other than that, well, you say other than that, that was the highlight of the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. That was. If you want a summary of my weekend, there it was. It was laughing at a 50-year-old man who growled.
Who then went to spend that time with his grandchildren, we think.
From what we saw, we saw him walk onto the common with his grandchildren.
Oh, bloody hell. What a world, eh?
What a fucking world. So, Formula One, they had the second race today. It's not the Austrian Grand Prix Volume 2, it's like Styrian Grand Prix, and I have no idea why they called it that.
It's the same race. It's literally race 1 and race 2.
Yeah.
All they've named it that is just to differentiate which race it is. So, of course, last weekend, which was the 5th of July, it was the Austrian Grand Prix. Mm-hmm. This weekend was the Styrian Grand Prix. Same thing, same place, just the differentiation for the name to understand. So it wouldn't literally be race 1, race 2, because that would be a bit boring, I think.
Right, okay. Still, I think it just doesn't really make sense to me. Like, I went over and I rewatched the highlights from last week, and I didn't realise that half the grid nearly crashed out pretty much. And Williams were the only team to finish outside the points, I think. Imagine Williams are so bad that even when half the team is gone, or half the grid is gone, they still cannot score points. They are. I
feel for them a little bit, though. I mean, it's of course a management problem where they used to be so good however many years ago when, what's his name? The actual Williams who started the team.
Frank Williams?
You could say any name right now and that wouldn't ring a bell. So let's say Frank for your argument. He started the team, and of course they were a lot stronger than they are now. And now his daughter's taken over and she's looking after everyone. Clearly something's not going right where, was it their chief mechanical engineer or something like that? He's not doing a great enough job, and they're having these problems when they're racing. It's just, I only really watch the highlights. I don't sit there for the however many hours, watch the qualifying on that, which I still have an interest in the sport. But of course, I've watched the Netflix documentaries for the last 2 years. Really interesting, even for non-Formula One fans. I'll definitely recommend to watch. They've done it very well, but without going on a tangent, that team seems to have a lack of leadership, which of course, if you don't have strong leadership, no one really has a sense of where they're going. And that means that you just kind of get on with your day rather than have goals and objectives to get to. So I think with that team, it's been on the downslope for however many years now. And it's really sad because, of course, they're locally based in the UK and they're properly locally based, not like the Mercedeses or the Renaults that have their offices here for whatever purposes, but don't actually have much to do with the UK. So from a very patriotic point of view, those guys are not doing great. And it's very sad to see when a team who has potential, if you think about it, it only takes a handful of personnel changes. And I reckon that team could be a completely different team.
It's probably down to an injection of money as well. Because I remember the first season of, it's not Last Dance, is it? It's Drive to Survive. That's the Netflix series that shows Formula One and kind of the behind the scenes and everything.
Yeah, I don't think Michael Jordan's in this one.
Imagine him trying to fit in a car.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
No.
I'm saying that, he wasn't like the stockiest of guys. He was just very well built, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's just tall because he's an NBA player. So you can imagine they'd have to saw a bit in the bottom to kind of make it stretch longer.
Yeah, he's not Shaquille O'Neal though, is he? So imagine that getting.
Oh my God! Imagine Shaq in a Formula One car.
just wouldn't work. I think I saw a documentary somewhere, I don't remember where from, but him just trying to fit into a normal sports car, and he's got a collection of them, and he literally just sits there with his like legs like that, and he's just like sat there like, yeah, this is really uncomfortable. I can't go for long journeys in it.
It's like us going into like some kid's toy electric car now, you know, the type.
Yeah,
Like I was trying to fit in one of them.
Not far off, probably. Yeah.
Exactly. It just looks so fucking stupid. But Williams in that first season, they were using Lance Stroll's father as an investor in order to make sure that they had enough funds to actually be able to be air quotes competitive, even though we could clearly see that they weren't being particularly competitive at all. But it just shows in Formula One that, you know, you need money and a lot of it to be able to compete, which is why I'm looking forward to what's going to happen with that whole spend cap. Because could it lead to Williams potentially moving up the grid because there's a level playing field in terms of cash?
I don't think it will be an instant. I don't think like next year they'll suddenly go from what?
No.
The bottom of the table to straight away fighting against Ferraris and Red Bulls and Mercedes, but it will probably eventually, in about 5 years' time, it will probably level it out a little bit because drivers won't be as incentivized to go to a Mercedes or a Ferrari or a Red Bull when they could pay them a lot more money. So drivers will be paid more or less about the same, or they'll have a cap anyway, and that cap will be the one that they can't go above. So everyone's going to offer you the maximum cap, for example. And then, of course, you've got the spending on the engineering and the engines and all that. It's going to be very interesting next year, I think. And that's why I think it was a real big shame with what's been happening in the world to have the impact overall, but then especially in Formula One, that they haven't really been able to have this one last season where they could push out and spunking out money left, right and centre. Which exactly. They would have done, wouldn't they, if this wasn't the case? Because the Mercedes would have known that if we don't spend all the money that we have right now, next year they can't spend it.
Exactly, yeah. And then they'll be under certain restrictions and everything, and it'll be much harder to get that extra, that little advantage over everyone else.
Yeah.
Now, speaking about that, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with McLaren, because they've got Lando Norris right now, and isn't Ricciardo joining them end of this year? So that's like Lando. These first two races, he's done way better than I expected him to. I didn't think he would finish that high up the grid.
Lando's done well last weekend, though, didn't he? He finished on the podium. It was third. I mean, conveniently, who was it? I know Hamilton pushed someone off when he clipped them. Was it?
He pushed Albon off. So
Albon, that was it.
They were going around a corner, and Hamilton really should have kept turning right, but he just straightened out instead, and that just kind of pushed Albon off.
Yeah, and rightly so. I think he should have been given that penalty because he did push him off, didn't he?
Yeah. Whether he obviously didn't intentionally turn his wheel into Albon, but he just straightened off earlier than he otherwise would have, and that looked pretty intentional.
Also think in that regard where you can get penalties for doing these sort of things, it's very interesting that the drivers can't be like, oh fuck you, and just turn and just hit the other person, where you would think if that happened in football and you're down, what if we compare the last 2-3 laps with the last few minutes in the game, and if you think about it, someone sprints down and they're 1-on-1 with a keeper, and you've got a defender that's just about keeping up with a striker, the defender will probably take that striker out and then we'll get a red card. You can't really do that in Formula One, can you? Because you'll get a penalty for it. And even if you finish ahead of him, you have that 5 second or however many second suspension where you'll pay for it at the end of the day.
True, but then when you compare it to what they had before, where they would have these stupid drive-through penalties, and that would just completely ruin the race. Whereas what they do now is they let them continue to race as they normally would, but they just take off the 5 seconds at the end of the race. And that makes way more sense than doing those stupid drive-through penalties, which just didn't work. And it just ruined the race. Whereas this still makes it an entertaining product.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember them being drive-through races. Um, so I don't think I was really interested in the sport whenever that was going round because I haven't really known anything different to what it's now. So I think it works
Oh,
brilliantly.
oh, okay, fair enough. But yeah, it's who would be the number one driver between Lando and Ricardo? You'd assume Ricardo because he's more experienced, but Lando will have been at McLaren longer.
I've
And
I've I've actually got an unpopular opinion, I think,
okay,
with Ricardo. So of course I'm not saying that he's a shit driver in any sort of way, but I think he's lost a bit of his touch over the last few years. He's of course went to Renault and he's gotten a massive pay rise from where was he before?
Red Bull.
Red Bull, that was it, yeah. And he was openly saying at the CEO of Red Bull, he's like, "Oh, how much are you paying to the French to the Renault CEO?" And when he was saying that, he was like, "Oh yeah, playing it off." We was like, "Fuck, he's onto me," because he knew that he was probably overpaying him a little bit. And of course, Ricardo had a shit year last year. Hasn't really done much this year, I don't really think. He's been in the middle pack at best.
I'd say so.
So
Yeah.
I don't think you can continue blaming the engine or the team. There's some sort of driver perspective on it, even though I know that when you reach to the top and you've got Bottas and um, Hamilton having 1-2s and whatnot and always being in the top five, yeah, that your team pushes you on to do that because they're consistent and they know what they're doing and they're not letting you down. That's where they're supporting you, but not going down too far. They can support you as much as you want, but it's that driver skill where you come up and you push. You're the one who's dependent on getting a good result, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah. Obviously, I remember that. I remember Ricardo's first season, and what seems to have changed is probably the fact that when you're kind of fresh on the thing I compare this to is kind of like you remember Chicharito at Man United. That first season when he came off the bench, he was just banging goals. And then the following season, I think they started him quite a few games, and he just was never the same again. Now Ricardo was able to back that up the following year with Red Bull, and then after that, once they brought Max Verstappen in to compete with him, he started to tail away, and Verstappen clearly took the number one role. So I think of it as kind of like in football they call it a second season syndrome, I think, something like that. Basically, where someone has an awesome year and maybe they do well in their second year, but they just can't keep that consistency. And
Yeah,
that
it's
seems to
one
be what.
season wonder, I guess. But Ricardo's always been a relatively good driver, and he's always been up there. I don't know. I just feel like he was well overhyped, and I don't know. Maybe McLaren know what they're doing more than us, and I'm sure they do know what they're doing more than we do. But it just seems like they're going to pay him a good wage, and it's just going to be the same, 10th place, 8th place, middle of the pack. It's not really going to be pushing it for the podium because all he does is have a flipping accident every race, and then he can't finish them. And if
Still,
he
at least
does,
go on.
it's going to be the 8th place. It's not going to be up in the top podium places.
At least he's not Roman Grosjean.
Don't get me started on that, though.
I remember there was a year when I would watch a race and it was like you could put a bet on Grosjean crashing into somebody. I think he crashed into 3 people in one season.
Hey, I think he finished last weekend where a good, 7 people didn't?
Did he really?
I think so. I think it was last place, but he finished.
I wasn't aware he was still racing. I thought he was off the grid.
Maybe it was this weekend that I might be getting it confused with.
Oh yeah. Fair enough.
Either way, he finished. Give him a clap.
Unlike Ferrari. That's a great little segue, Dan.
Oh,
You
I
led
was
that to
just about to say, 2 silly races, aren't they? Well, of course, was it Leclerc who clipped into Vettel? Vettel clipped into Leclerc.
Yeah, Leclerc went in today in this second race.
Yeah.
Vettel, no. Leclerc hit Vettel. He was trying to go up the
They went around
inside.
the corner, didn't they? And he jumped off him.
Yeah, he almost T-boned him pretty much. And then, Vettel lost his rear wing for some reason. And they both were forced to retire. And you're like, great job, lads. Nice one. Teamwork.
I'll be fuming if I was a team principal. I'll just be like, right, both of you in the back room, and you sit there looking into the corner for the next however long until the race finishes.
Treat them
Imagine,
like, go on.
yeah, well, how much money have they lost by not finishing? Had they finished like in 10th place, they would have gotten 1 point or something like that. How many points you get for mid place?
Yeah.
They got fuck all. And for a team like Ferrari, that's a lot of money lost.
Do they get paid based on how many points they get?
Well, they would do, wouldn't they? Because that would, at the end of the year, that would mean where they finish. So in the next few races, they've got to finish 1-2s to catch up for their non-finishers.
Oh, okay. Because how many races are there overall now?
I think there's 15 this year so far. They're trying to book more.
I saw a headline that one was booked recently, and I can't remember what it was. I thought it was they're trying to get one booked in Sochi, which is going to be dead because that's a crap race anyway. But that's going to really annoy me. But I'm just coming back to Ferrari and why this has happened. It's obviously Vettel's last season with Ferrari, so you can clearly see that he just doesn't really give a fuck anymore about like pleasing management, and he's just going to go for it. So that was kind of expected in the first place. But the fact that I don't think he's finished either race now. I think Leclerc finished last race, but then the last race, so the first Austrian Grand Prix, he got taken out by Sainz, who's going to be replacing him at Ferrari, which I just thought was too ironic.
Yeah, it's really sad because, of course, Formula One is one of those sports where you've got one other teammate. So being felt left out or being felt as if you are not the superior in the team is inevitable at any point for anyone, unless you are I guess Verstappen, it was for a while at Red Bull with Ricciardo, but that's why Ricciardo ended up leaving. So all I'm saying is it's one of those sports where psychology is really important, and I'm sure the team principals very well know of that and how to deal with it. But it's very sad because if one of the racers gets treated a little bit better than the other one, and that's usually tends to be with the younger ones that 20, 21, 22, and there's a lot of potential seen in them, the teams kind of tend to favour them quite a lot. And the older ones who have won 4 championships in a row with another team, kind of like, oh yeah, well, you go and we'll just concentrate on this one who is got potentially 10 years to go, whereas you've only got a couple more to go. And it's really sad because that's, like you mentioned, I know you accidentally mentioned Last Dance, but it was the same thing with Chicago Bulls and their senior management. Even though the team was so good for so many years, they kind of just disregarded them after a few years and went, oh, actually, yeah, we'll just get a new team in. But it's like, well, why would you fix something that's not broken?
Yeah, logic says that you should try and keep that team together for as long as possible whilst you're still seeing success. But I guess the problem with Vettel is that they haven't been seeing much success with him. The last couple of years, they've been coming second to Mercedes in fucking everything. And Vettel hasn't won an individual championship. So you can kind of see why they would be wanting to move on from him, especially because the guy replacing him, Carlos Sainz, is still pretty young. He's still, 25, 26. So whereas Vettel is closer to retirement for sure, and he's not won anything.
But then you've got the likes of Raikkonen still racing. So
Raikkonen's not a threat to the world championship though. Raikkonen's racing for Alfa Romeo, I want to say, and he lost his tire today, by the way.
Yeah,
so he ended up crashing out. I was
like,
no, Kimi. Oh man, have you seen the Kimi compilation on YouTube?
Yeah, when reporters are like, "Oh, you must be really excited about winning this race," he's like, "Yes, I'm very excited." It's just like with a straight face.
Exactly. Yeah, just never responds to anything. They found him, I think, half an hour before a race, just passed out in a caravan, just asleep.
Just chilling.
Yeah, exactly. And then they wake him up. Okay, I race now.
Fucking robot.
I know, right? It's almost scary.
He could be a robot. You don't know. He might have a few batteries in his back. But
I mean, how low down in his back?
I'm not going there because I don't want to think about that. You entertain that thought yourself. I was just going to say, I understand Ferrari, they want to stay competitive, but it's really interesting because they did give the attention to Leclerc, didn't they? And they focused on him a lot more than they did on Vettel because he wouldn't have said, "Oh, well, I want to move on." From it, had he gotten a little bit more attention, he would have been pushing for it himself. He's won 4 championships with another team. He's got the mentality to go and push forward and want to win, have that winning mentality. But why is it that they focused, and I'm not saying they have, because there might have been some stuff in the background, but it's very interesting to think about that aspect that the team gave someone else more attention and then that pushes him away.
Well, again, it's understandable why they would give him attention, because obviously he's this bright young star that's going to be potentially really, really good, but so far hasn't really shown much. Like he's one of those people that you sign because they're a prospect, even though they haven't really done anything yet. Yeah. That's just how they see him. Basically, they see him as a prodigy to work on.
Well, I think Red Bull have an amazing duo because they're both young, aren't they? They're both in their early 20s at best.
Yeah, Verstappen's like my age, like 22.
Yeah, he's been racing for like 3-4 years already as well.
He was signed when he was 18. And
Albon is around about 21, I think, 22 as well.
Yeah, they're both early 20s guys, and Verstappen's obviously got a proven record now of being very aggressive and competitive, which is great. And Albon, a little bit of what we've seen is, he's been aggressive, but he's just been pushed out by Hamilton. He thinks he's playing with go-karts.
I was going to say, however many times I've actually watched Formula One, every single time Albon has been insane and pushing forward and being really aggressive. And he's been doing it so well up until about 3rd place where he gets clipped by someone and he goes flying into a wall.
Oh, man, he still hasn't had a podium yet, has he?
No, I don't think so. Oh, I don't know, actually. Either way, I don't think he's too far off being, that top 5 finisher consistently once he manages to look into his rear mirror and to see how close someone is to clipping him.
Yeah, once he manages to judge distances, then he'll be set.
But then again, last week, he couldn't really have done much when Hamilton went and clipped him and he went flying. So it's one of those things where you question if it's luck as well.
Yeah, I guess that there's a certain degree of luck, isn't there, involved in pretty much anything. So, yeah,
that's true.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's pretty much all the notes I had written down.
Yeah, well, next week is not, or is it 2 weeks? Is it a Hungarian Grand Prix, or is it Silverstone?
Yeah, they've got Hungarian coming up, and then they've got Silverstone. I don't know. Have they got 2 races at Silverstone?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, Hungarian, Silverstone, and then after that, I'm completely clueless.
Do you reckon they'll call it the British Grand Prix and then the Silverstone Grand Prix?
No. They'll call it the British Grand Prix, and then yeah, that probably makes sense actually. What am I looking up? Formula One. See, this is where I take up the Jamie role.
Look that shit up, James.
Yep, whilst you spark a joint.
Up. I can't find it. I need to find one first.
Got it. Okay. The official calendar. Yep. So Austria, Hungary, Great Britain. Yep, back-to-back British. And then you've got Spain, and then Belgium, Italy. And that's all we've really got so far. That's pretty
Yeah, I'm
much
sure
it.
they'll have more as the time goes on, but they have said it's going to be very Eurocentric at the moment, isn't
I
it?
mean, that's pretty much what we expected. They're not going to go to the US anytime soon, given that that's a virtual death sentence.
Yeah. Um, well, we're not going to do this now, but yeah, I think going to the likes of Far Asia, I think that's a write-off. And I think that they said they wanted to do Australia, but again, that's going to be a little bit far for
Yeah,
what they.
considering Melbourne's in lockdown right now.
Mm.
Do you know the story of how Melbourne went back into lockdown?
No.
Oh man! So obviously Australia's COVID cases were rapidly declining, and then this one woman who had the virus but was asymptomatic, so she didn't know she had it. She was doing a 2-week quarantine in a hotel in Melbourne, and then this security guard was there to make sure that she didn't leave. He started talking to her, and then they ended up banging, and then he went out and just spread the virus at some Eid event because he was this Pakistani bloke, and then that was how the virus ended up spreading again, and so they had to go back into lockdown for 6 weeks.
I
Totally
was going
worth
to say something very racist, but
it.
it's not going to
Totally
happen.
worth it.
Totally worth it to be cancelled.
No. I meant that guy getting laid.
Oh yeah, probably for him. Yeah, probably. I don't blame him. I think any bloke would do that if they could. Why not?
Yeah. Fuck it. Why not? That was literally his thought.
So it's. I mean, it's going to be a way of life now, isn't it? Well, it's not really going to end realistically.
No, not till
until there's a
maybe
vaccine. It's not
just
gonna.
December, January. But then again, viruses mutate, don't they? So there will.
No one really knows. No one really knows. The data's mumbled. No one really knows anything about it. So it's a pandemic that we have to live through.
Yeah, that's all. That's all we've got to do, really, is just put up with it.
And I'm sure, as they do in Formula One, they just put a face mask on and then they go and grind on top of each other, hugging and celebrating, and that's fine. The virus won't get through that.
I don't remember that bit where they were grinding on one another.
Well, when they jump and they celebrate, they just grind on top of each other.
Oh yeah, because they hold them up, don't they? The team holds them up, and they're just kind of like, "Hey!"
Exactly.
I never thought of it like that. I was just like,
well, you'll look at them very differently next time you see that happen. Like, because of Dan, I can see them humping each other. Fuck's sake, Dan.
Lando, what's that tent in your crotch all about? Right, I feel like that's a good point on which to end. Thank you all very much if you got to this point, and we'll see you again next time.
Cheers, guys. Stay tuned.